All right, welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. Today, I'm gonna go into the ultimate windmill tutorial. I'm gonna go over basic stab windmills, common mistakes, barrel mills, tap mills, baby mills, tombstones, whatever you want. I almost got it all. Let's get into it. We're gonna go over to common mistakes. I'm gonna review all the mistakes for stab windmills first before getting into all the more advanced stuff. When you first learn to stab windmill, people will stab and they'll pull and they'll generate momentum from the first whip. And the hardest part is not this part, it's getting around. This is a part that a lot of people have problems and issues with. And common things I'll see is like they're not using their head enough. They can cut their momentum with their leg, and there's a lot of focus on momentum going into the move, but not momentum coming out of the move. The first thing I'll focus on is using your head more and don't cut with your left leg. An example of this is someone will do the windmill and they'll bring their leg in like that to cut the momentum. What you really should do is just keep your entire core flex, your legs straight, and use your head more to generate momentum and whip there. An example like not using your head is also like people turning over too quickly. So that could look like obviously I can do the move, but those are very common mistakes I see people do when they're trying to learn the move. When you're trying to do stab windmills, try to use your head, try to keep your legs, your core tight, and when you turn over, use your hips, your legs, your head. Make sure you're generating momentum on the way out, just like you generate momentum on the way in. Okay, so the two main stretches I did were getting a wide straddle. This helps with basic windmills, and getting your hips flexible. So that's your pigeon stretch. This way, this stretches out your hip flexors also. Make sure you do both sides. In terms of strengthening exercises, I'll do the hip adductor machine. I'll do Copenhagen planks, and I'll also do planks. So this just kind of helps you strengthen your core and hollow out. And what I mean by hollow is you're flexing your body and you're pushing out of your shoulders. So it's kind of like rounded. There's going to be a point where you're ready to move on to a barrel, and most people actually are ready to move on to barrel before they realize it. Basically, there's a point when you're doing stab windmills, you generate so much whip going into it that it holds you back when you re-stab. An example of that is so you can see by stabbing, my body's kind of lagging, and that's when you know you're ready for barrels, because then you don't need to stop. You can just whip it. So when you do barrels, the thing to focus on is keeping your core tight, keeping your legs locked out. That means they don't fall behind you, like your hip doesn't fall behind. You just stay in front. I watched Jamal's tutorial. He has like amazing windmills. In his really old tutorial, he's bending his legs, but the thing to note there is his hips are still in front and he's hollowed out. So I could give an example of that too. So I'm going to stress two things. So one is you got to stay locked out in your core. You have to keep it tight. You're not folding like a pancake. Some people, they fold and it kills their momentum. And I'll give an example of this. You can see I can get around, but it's not generating a whip and I'm bouncing in place. What you want to do is you want to lock out and you're really just like rolling around on the ground like this. The next thing I want to focus on is generating momentum in and out. I want to specifically focus on this for barrel mills, because at this point you should be getting your foundation a little better. When you go into it, my advice is trying to learn how to windmill, headstand, windmill. And that kind of gives you an understanding of how to use your hips to bounce for a transition, but also how to generate momentum going in and out of something. Obviously, when you do multiple windmills, you're gonna be a little lower, but you wanna stay high on your shoulders and head. As an example, if I'm just staying here, would be I whip around, head, windmill, head, windmill, head, windmill, head, windmill. All right, at this point, like I've gone over barrels, it's just a lot of practice. You have to use your head and neck a lot, but once you understand how to barrel reliably and generate momentum in and out, you can do variations. I'm just gonna kind of run through these and explain the differences. They're very nuanced. So I'm gonna start with nutcrackers here. If you think about it logically, you don't have your arms up here anymore. So you need to use your legs, lean back more, and whip your upper body more. And that looks like this. Next is handcuffs. These are even more nuanced because like when your arms are behind your back, you need to really lean back more and use your head more. And usually you might like bang your head up a little more on this move. And I'll demonstrate that now. All right, next up is egg beaters. I don't see people do this move as much. I don't even know if it's that cool, but you're kind of like this, like a whisk. You're beating some eggs. This one, you just gotta lock out and you kind of just rotate your whole body. This is a really good example of like why it's just a variation of a barrel, because you're just locking out and you're leaning back a lot. But this one looks like this. All right, next is one of my personal favorites, hook windmills. I have some combo variations of this, but you can hook your right leg or your left leg. I can actually hook both, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna just demonstrate my right leg first, and then my left. With my right leg, I'm going clockwise. I'm whipping out harder with my left arm, and then I'm coming into it. And I am kind of pulling out to generate momentum up. Now I'll do it on the left side, just for sake of it. All right, now we're gonna get into tap mills. I'm gonna talk about how I learned this move. For me, a lot of what I do, I try to generate momentum or find ways to just keep momentum going. I don't really like doing that many tap mills anymore. Everyone says it's just a crash out move, but I'm gonna go into it anyways. So, first thing was I learned how to head swipe, and there's lots of tutorials for this, but you're gonna put all your weight through your foot, and I like to go off my toe, and then you use your hips and your leg, and you jump up, and then you swing your body around. There's a lot of tutorials on this, so it's like this. Next, what I would do, like the main thing is like understanding how to use their momentum there. I always start any new windmill variation from just the basic stab windmill. So here, I would start here, like a basic stab. And what I'll do is I'll push off into a tap mill. So I always learn how to rotate into whatever move I'm learning. So this is how I would start a tap mill. The key thing for tap mills is you want to use your opposite leg to kick, and that provides a lot of height. That helps you get up on your shoulders. And then, then it's kind of like a barrel mill or whatever windmill where you arch and turn around. So I'm just gonna demonstrate what that would look like. There's lots of tap mill tutorials, but I think the main thing to take away from this tutorial is I do generate momentum on the way in, and I do generate momentum on the way out. So I'll start, I'll go into it, tap, generate momentum. When I bounce onto my head, I use my left shoulder, and then I also whip this leg around. So this leg comes in, but there's also a part where it whips around like that. That's cool because then I can just like generate momentum. If I'm doing a combo, I can switch legs. I never practiced that move, so it's loud. But that's the general idea around how I keep my momentum up in my tap mills. All right, next is baby mills. This one's kind of weird. I had a lot of trouble with this in the beginning, and then one day I hit 5, and I lost it the next 2 weeks. And the next time I hit it, I could hit 9. So something I learned for this move, again, I always learn how to backspin in a specific position or land on my back from a stab windmill. So when I first started learning baby mill, I would learn how to control my momentum and spin on my back. And this helps you when you're doing multiple windmills to stay in place. Like you don't want to be in a battle or whatever, practicing, and then you're sliding everywhere. So an example of this is if I start my stab, I would practice closing my legs, getting on my back, and back spinning in the same spot. One of the trickiest things about this move is learning that you don't have to kick your legs out that hard. You don't need to pump out super hard. You just need to pump a little bit. It's like just a little bit like that. You bring it back in, and then you twist with your upper body. And there's a lot of momentum generation that happens from your core and upper body. So I would practice doing one, learning how to do the backspin, and then kind of like popping out of it. And honestly, this is just one of those moves where once you learn the rhythm, then you'll understand how to generate momentum and keep going. This is a move where like I could start slow, I could speed up, I could slow down. And I'll give an example of that. So I'll just start from backspin. So a lot of your momentum generation comes from this rhythm and this pump twist. There's momentum going in, which is you're going in and you're twisting in. And then there's momentum when you pop out and twist out. And then you crunch back in, twist in. This move just takes practice, honestly. And it's like one of those things which once you get the feeling, you're good. I've never lost it since the first time I lost it, and then when I got it back, I've never lost it since then. It's the first move I can do right away after surgery. So pretty low intensity on the body. This is the second to last variation. This is by popular demand. Shout out to my boy Jordan and Tunes. You guys better learn this move after this video. It is the Tombstone windmill. I see a lot of people will like hook their legs. They'll kind of like go like this, but bend them. I'm gonna talk about how I learned this move and how I gained the strength for this. So first off, you should have a pretty good forward fold. I can't palm the ground, but you should at least have this part. And honestly, when I was younger, I did so much P90X ab ripper X. I did this a lot. So I'm just really good at doing this workout. And that's important because when you do a tombstone, you're basically folding in on top of yourself. Now, like all my other variations, I start from stab windmill. So how I learned this was starting from stab, backspin, and then learning how to backspin in place. This move took quite a bit of time. I think it just clicked one day at one practice or one jam. Basically, what I would do is I would practice getting onto my head from the back. So that's like folding out. So that would look like this. And then I was confused on how to continue. And so I watched a lot of people do it, and you'll notice that they're like up here. And so if they go into another one, they really fold in. So you need a strong core, a strong pike, like this. And then let's say I start from windmill. I'm just gonna kind of talk about how I generate momentum in and out. So when I'm going into it, I close my legs and I kind of like do this sweeping motion with my upper body, and this folds in. Folding in lets me have room to let my legs pass through and my upper body pass through. And then when I'm on my back, that's when I can fold out a little bit. If you fold out too early, you're gonna hit your legs on the ground. So I'm gonna demonstrate how I do 1 or 2 from standing, and then maybe by observing how I fold in and generate momentum in and out, you'll understand how to learn this move on your own. So that's me kind of trying to do 3. I honestly got lazy. You got to stay really tight and generate momentum with your upper body and fold in when you're doing this. Now I'm going to try to do 5, 6. Make sure you're wearing long sleeves when you learn windmills. I just don't know why you would wear a t-shirt when you're learning these moves, unless you enjoy rug burn. All right, so that's baby mills, that's tombstones. One thing I want to touch on is Australian, that's just figure 4. This is kind of like a tombstone, but I think it's a little easier. I don't know exactly why it's easier. Maybe it just has to do with like hip flexibility, but it's kind of like you're folding in and your arms are like this. You don't have to do this tombstone. I feel like that makes it easier for people to understand, but that just looks like this. And honestly, my flexibility is not great. I'm only crossover here, but I am recovering from ACL. I mean, it's been a year and a half. That's just an excuse, but it's not that great. All right, the last variation I'm really gonna touch on is double barrel. One of my friends from Florida taught me this trick back when I first started breaking, like 4 years in. So if you can do barrels very well, it's kind of like you're going into a halo. And then what you do is when you're looking up in the air, you do like an extra twist. And this sounds really weird to explain, but I'll give an example from standing. And doing this move from standing is easier than doing it from like multiple barrels. But if you can do it from multiple barrels, it shows you've really kind of mastered this movement. All right, so I don't really know what to like discuss more about double barrel. I feel like if you have good barrels and you're ready to move on to the next level, that trick really was all I needed to understand that movement. You just lean back a little more and then you whip your body in midair and you don't stall your momentum and it should get you around. Now, if you're trying to do multiple double barrels in a row, I find that when you land, you lean back again more and it helps to kind of like bend whatever your kicking leg is because it helps keep your hips stay locked in that position when you're doing the rotation. It makes it a little faster. All right, I'm beat from filming all day.
Oh my God, I'm so tired.
But there's like some other variations you've probably seen, like hook baby mill, hook figure 4. I feel like if you can understand the fundamentals of windmills generating momentum in and out, you should be able to understand the hook ones, but they're pretty hard, honestly. So that's it for my breakdown. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment if you thought this was helpful. Good luck with your ground power. I'm out.